So one of the things that I just love making knives is making jigs to do certain processes for each part of the knife. I just love that. And one of the things that I've seen over time talking to other knife makers is that they've had troubles, if you're making a hidden tang knife, drilling a hole up inside of an antler or some other really beautiful piece of handle material, and how do you get the hole to go straight? Most antlers are curved. How do you make sure that you get a hole in there and you don't put a drill bit through the antler? And how do you hold a stock still, and just stuff like that? It's a difficult thing, and I've had trouble with it over the years as well. So I thought, I'm just going to sit down and make a jig. And so I wanted to show you the jig I made, because every knife guy should be able to make it in their shop. It's very simple, and I'm sure there's even better ideas out there than what I've got, but this is what I've done, so I'm going to share it with you today. So I needed something to work on to try and come up with the idea of a good way to center drill antler material. So I started making these bottle openers, and they've really taken off, and because I'm an engraver, I engrave around these and people just love them. But here we come back to, I put the paint can opener down in the middle that comes down in here a couple inches. How do I get that in the center of this antler? So I sat down and kind of started drawing things out, and here's what I came up with. This is all set up nicely on one of my Grizzly drill presses. You can see I have more than one here. I just love Grizzly and their stuff. I wanted to be able to take any drill size and any drill depth to be able to center drill any one of these items I needed to do, whether it's an antler or even a small square pole that I need to have a hole in the middle of, or whatever. And so what I did was, I have access to a lot of a product called resin wood. And it's like micarta, but it's 15 times harder. We use it for knife handles. We use it for a lot of things. It is so hard and so dense. You don't stabilize it in any way, shape, or form, but you can thread it beautifully. So I took a piece that's 3/4 of an inch thick. I cut a square. It was 2 3/4 square. And in the center of it, I just took one of my big, drill bits that you use for cutting a hole in the door, and did 1 1/4 inch hole there, because I measured most of my antlers and nothing was that big. So then I took some all thread, this is 1/4 20, and made my own little bolts or holding pins for it. And on my grinder, I made sure that each of these was ground to a sharp point, so that when all 4 of these are out and going into the side of whatever I'm doing, that they really can bite into the material. Now, the nice thing about this for me was the copper cap on the antler. So the other part of this jig, once I had put when I had ground these to a point, put a couple of nuts on the outside, and I screwed them tightly together so I could get a wrench around it, and then put a little drop of glue in it. Then I used some 1/8 inch thick or 1/4 inch thick, actually a combination of both, pieces of the resin wood to make these little legs. And I think this is about 8 inches tall, 7 inches tall, because again, it seemed like that was pretty darn good size for the antlers that I was going to work with to drill. Okay, so once everything got set up, I drilled holes in right in the center of each of these faces, went in with a tap and tapped the 1/4 20 threads and put these in, and geez, it works beautifully. So I actually used my little Black & Decker $20 drill, and don't even necessarily drill them in unless it's really hard stuff, but it's easy for me to adjust these to get it to fit. And the way I know, so this is how this system works, and I'll show you how easy it is. And I'm just going to use a piece of wood dowel I bought over at Home Depot. I turn it upside down, I put it down in the center of these 4 bolts with the points on them, and I just kind of spin it and turn it till I get a nice basic secure holding, and then the top of this is flush with the top of this. Okay, so once I know that's right, and now this is a straight up and down piece, and you can see however you turn it, it stays nice and straight up and down. Then I can go back and just a couple of turns of these, just barely puts those sharp points on the bolts into the material, and then we're done. It's that simple. So I marked the center of where I want to drill before I put this in here. And all I do now, once this is nice and tight, is I come over, use a pilot hole maker thingy. Okay, come back over. Now I'm using 3/16 drill bit. And what I needed to do was, it was real simple. It was, this is how easy this part is. And actually, here's the inside of a warthog tusk where I've drilled out in the middle. The rest of this is just naturally open. But this is how deep I need to go down inside of this. Set my drill bit up so that it goes exactly the depth that I want. And then drill. So it goes so quickly, you don't really even have to think about it. Getting it right down the middle, as deep as I want it to go. Everything is held in there really tightly. Run it out again. And that's it. I turn it upside down, back each of these off so that I can run them out with my fingers. And the part comes out. So that's the hole. Here's where I wanted it to go. It fits beautifully. So I showed you how simple that was on a straight piece, but it's a different thing when you're using antler or like this warthog tusk because it curves so bad. But the setup is just as easy because I left these legs separated. I can set that in there and feel where it's nice and flat and just start tightening my set bolts with the points going into the material just barely, and a little crank on each one to tighten it. And yeah, this does put it a little bit of an indentation, but then when you turn it over, it's just sitting there ready to go. It's totally flush up here. Now, if you need to adjust anything on this, so if you have something that's really curved like this, and you want to make sure that the drill bit goes all the way down straight through it without coming out the side of the curb, you can come in and just loosen two of these because the others are in there nice and tight, and forcibly move this or pivot it so that it gives you a lot more straighter up and down action. So just by moving it a little bit, you can see here how much you've got, and that is actually enough to allow me to go ahead and drill all the way into it. So one of the things I did in the beginning before I drilled it was I wanted to make sure that I do have space in here, that I do get it in the right spot, that if I was going to follow the perpendicular line straight down from this, that might come to the back of it too close, so I did want to pivot it just a little. So now when this goes in, it's fairly flush with that. Turn it sideways so you can see how it's there. And I have got plenty of material here, so I don't have to worry about that going out the side of it. So then it was simply, I had a hole in the top of this I had pre-drilled, and when I did all the engraving, so now everything just slides together and it's super easy to glue up. Before we wrap up, I just want to make a quick little thing about the resin wood. We have this in different thicknesses, 1/8 inch, quarter, I have some 3/16, I have 3/8. You can buy this from USA Knife Maker Supply, from K&G. We supply them both for it. It's great for scales. It's great for inserts. I made this whole jig out of this stuff because it's so solid. We have bigger pieces to use. Amazing stuff. If you have any questions, DM me and I'll tell you more about it.